Insurance fraud is a huge problem that deserves our attention, but it doesn't always get it. And as you guys know, up to 7% of all claims are fraudulent, and up to 10% of all losses are fraudulent. That adds up to about $80 billion a year lost to insurance fraud. So it's critically important for us to work together with our internal and external partners to make sure that we're only paying legitimate claims.
Wow, in the workers' compensation arena, the fraud that exists ranges from things like provider fraud all the way up to fraud involving injured workers who are actually not actually injured and are out either working in other jobs or perhaps weightlifting or engaged in activities that could not possibly be related to their work-related injury.
In the property, auto, and liability space, the biggest component obviously is general liability, where we see the largest number of claims. And in that subset of general liability is slip and falls, followed by workers' compensation and auto liability, and then property.
And it's important to know that for some of these claimants, this is a job for them. And these are organized accidents or stage accidents, and they're intentionally doing this to try and submit claims and make a little bit of money.
When it comes to detecting fraud, I mean, the first line of defense for us is our case handlers, working very closely with our customers, the employer, our brokers and agents, and making sure that when we recognize any kind of fraudulent activity, it's reported to us so we can quickly begin to investigate that claim, and where appropriate, get it out to your unit so that you can complete the investigation.
Right, and so the case handlers are usually our best line of defense, but we need to be a little bit smarter about how we identify and address insurance fraud. And we're doing that in a number of different ways. And the first is through the use of data analytics. So we have predictive models set up on all the different lines of businesses. And those models look back at our historical data and look for key variables that might be indicative of fraudulent claims, such that as new claims come in the door, with those variables, they get automatically flagged and sent to our SIU for review. So that automated approach is supplementing what we're getting from our case handlers.
Mike, one of the things I'm really excited about your data analytics team is the social media component. Being able to go out on public domain sites and look for information has been critical to several of the investigations that your team has done. And I think it shows that we are, again, very progressive and utilizing information that's out there to help us fight fraud.
Right, absolutely. And they're able to identify potentially organized rings. So an example would be in the auto industry, if we have an accident with a large number of claimants, we could be able to look and use social media to look at those claimants and see if there's a connection between them all. Maybe they are related with a different last name. Maybe they all live in the same household. And that would be potentially indicating that this was an organized ring that's staging the accidents.
Yeah, and I think that leads into the last component of the fraud cycle. So denying a claim is one thing, but then the handoff to law enforcement and the National Insurance Crime Bureau is another thing, and extremely important, again, to the life cycle of the claim.
And that really sets a signal out in the industry that we're not going to tolerate fraudulent behavior, and everyone who's thinking of engaging in an act like that really has to step back and think about it. So a tremendous sentinel effect across both workers' compensation and the liability lines of business.
Agreed. And I think our customers have a key role in that as well, as far as communicating what's happening, helping us identify fraud at the outset. And that partnership is critical to their and our success.
It is, and other things that customers can do is commit to a zero-tolerance fraud policy and make sure that all of their employees understand the different schemes that are out there and the impact that it has on their company. And then they can look to use data to show what are some of their at-risk areas and try and find ways to help mitigate that risk, whether it's through surveillance cameras or sweep logs or whatnot. And then, as you mentioned, getting that information to our case handlers. And for us, our SIU works very closely with the case handlers, and we have a highly trained and highly passionate group of folks that are looking to fight fraud at every angle, and so that's important in this fight.